Okay, I think that should be enough. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I want to start by thanking you all for taking the time to attend this webinar. My name is Amro Eid. I'm the Director of Business Development at FreeMind. I have a background in biomedical engineering and a Master's of Science in International Health Management. A quick introduction about FreeMind. Really, for the past 2 decades, our purpose is to really help life science entities raise non-dilutive capital from US federal sources and private foundations. So the purpose of this webinar is to discuss funding opportunities for medical devices. And of course, along the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the Q&A section. And I'll try to go over them and answer as many as I can at the end if we have enough time. Okay, so start with the funding landscape. It really covers the entire research and development process, from proof of concept, the discovery phase, all the way to clinical trials. As you can see, there are different mechanisms with different funding levels that fund different stages of development throughout the R&D process. So for early stage projects, one can expect between $200,000 to $500,000. For more advanced preclinical, early clinical, moving to phase one can expect between $500,000 to $3 million. And for phase 2-3 clinical trials, it can go much, much more. So really the takeaway message is that the US funding landscape covers the entire research and development process from discovery to clinical trials, phase 1, 2, and 3. So moving on to the most famous and the largest institute agency in the US, we're talking about the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. Out of the $60 billion funding landscape from US federal sources, the vast majority comes from the NIH, which is about $42 billion this year. The NIH, for those who are not aware, consists of 27 institutes and centers that really funds all types of science related to human health. Looking at the NIH Categorical Spending, we can see that it really covers any illness known to man. So we can see here where the NIH is actually spending its money. Now, before you start adding up these numbers, it's really important to note that these categories are not mutually exclusive. There's a lot of overlap. We see here funds allocated for clinical research, genetics, cancer, infectious diseases, and a lot more. So where's the medical device dollars hiding? You should know that in each of these categories, there's money hiding, which is going towards R&D for medical devices. By the way, the most obvious place in terms of the categories here is the bioengineering at about $4 billion, where probably most of the money goes to fund medical devices in that category. However, remember that each of these categories, and in fact, just about every NIH institute offers funding for the research and development of medical devices. Having said that, probably the NIH institute providing the most funding for medical devices is the NIBIB, which is the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering. So really talking about the most famous institute in the NIH to fund medical sciences, as I mentioned, the NIBIB, its mission is to improve health by leading the development and accelerating the application of biomedical technologies. So it's really about integrating the physical and engineering sciences with life sciences to advance basic research and medical care. So unlike other NIH institutes, the mission of the NIBIB is not limited to a single disease. It's not limited to cancer or neurological disorders or a group of illnesses or even a particular population. In fact, the NIBIB is the only NIH institute to fund platform technologies without the need to specify an organ or disease. So if you look at their goals, and you can see that they're really looking to integrate engineering with the physical and life sciences. They're looking for point of care, wireless, telehealth, personal health informatics technologies, and they're really looking to transform advances of disease mechanisms into precise medical diagnostics and therapeutics. Also in terms of developing medical technologies that are low cost, effective, and accessible to everyone. So to tell you more about the areas of interest of NIBIB, this is a comprehensive list of all the topics of interest. Just to mention a few, we've got biosensors, connected health, delivery systems and devices for drugs and biologics, image processing, visual perception and display. We've got mathematical modeling, simulation and analysis. We have surgical tools, techniques and systems. We have rehabilitation engineering and implantable medical devices. In addition to tissue chips, tissue engineering, point-of-care technology, and many, many more. So to give you an example, this is an example opportunity from the NIBIB. It is called the Trailblazer Award for New and Early Stage Investigators. It's an R21 mechanism, so it's for early stage projects where clinical trials are optional. In terms of the award budget, we're talking about $400,000 over the maximum of 3 years, with no more than $200,000 per year. So in terms of the scope, as I mentioned, the goal of the NIBIB is to integrate engineering and the physical sciences with life or biomedical sciences. The Trailblazer project is all about exploratory, developmental, as you can see, proof of concept, and it could be technology design directed or discovery driven or hypothesis driven. And most importantly, they state that minimal or no preliminary data is required. Having said that, based on our experience, we definitely encourage our clients to have as much data as possible when they submit the application. Worth mentioning, this opportunity is only available for US entities, US-based companies or institutions, and non-US entities are not eligible to apply for the specific opportunities. But if you're a non-US entity, fear not, we're going to talk about many other opportunities that you can apply for. In terms of the upcoming deadlines, we have October 16th, classical R21 deadline, following by February 16th next year. Another very interesting funding opportunity out there for early stage projects is the R21 Clinical Trial Optional EBRG, which is the Exploratory Developmental Bioengineering Research Grants. In terms of the award budget, it's about $275,000 over the course of 2 years, once again, with no more than $200,000 per year. So in terms of the purpose of this opportunity is really to demonstrate feasibility and potential utility of new capabilities or improvements in quality, speed, efficacy, operability, as you can see, costs, and accessibility. In terms of clinical trials, as I've mentioned, they are optional. Worth mentioning, the only institute participating in this opportunity is the National Cancer Institute. So it's going to be oncology-based programs. In terms of the upcoming deadlines, same thing for the previous one, a classical R21 deadline, October 16th and February 16th of next year. Moving on to opportunities that cover more advanced projects, we have the R01 Clinical Trial Required BRG, the Bioengineering Research Grants. The award budget is not capped, actually. You just might have to justify the scope of work. $500,000 per year is the recommended amount that you should ask for no more than 5 years. So this one is really all about adoption of promising tools, methods, techniques for a specific research or clinical problem, all in basic, translational, or clinical science and practice. Clinical trials for this opportunity are required to be conducted, and there are many other, many institutes in the NIH participating for this one, really depending on which angle that you're using your medical device in terms of addressing unmet medical needs. In terms of upcoming deadlines, we have October 5th of this year, followed by February 5th of next year. So this is actually the same exact opportunity, but the only difference is that clinical trials are not allowed. So if you're not planning to conduct, pivotal studies, clinical studies, this would be a much better fit for your program. Okay, so moving on to other areas of interest in terms of medical devices, we've got things about neuroscience research. For example, we have the Brain Initiative Award, which is basically the development, optimization, and validation of novel tools and technologies for neuroscience research. It's an SBIR grant, which I'll explain more about now, and clinical trials are not allowed. So it's a two-phase program, the SBIR. We have, in terms of phase one, funding available up to $225,000 for a period of maximum 2 years. And for the phase two program, the SBIR, it's up to $1.5 million over the period of 3 years at a maximum. In terms of the purpose of this opportunity is to develop novel tools and technologies really to advance the field of neuroscience research. And since it's an SBIR program, SBIR are basically small business programs for US based companies. So non-US entities are not eligible to apply for this opportunity. As you can see, this opportunity is multi-institutional. Many institutes participate from the NIH, including the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, and others, to really help advance programs in the field of neurosciences. In terms of the upcoming deadlines, we've got September 5th, so really soon, and January 5th of next year. So we have, so we've talked about the early stage one in the previous slide. This is another brain initiative with for more advanced projects. We have the RO1 clinical trials not allowed. It's about the integration and analysis of brain initiative data. So in terms of the award budget, it's there's really not capped. You just have to justify the scope of work. Once again, $500,000 per year for up to a period of 5 years is what's recommended. The purpose of this opportunity is to develop informatics tools for analyzing, visualizing, and integrating data related to the brain initiative, or to enhance our own understanding of the brain. Now, as opposed to the previous solicitation, non-US entities can apply for this opportunity. In terms of the upcoming deadlines, we've got September 9th of this year and the 4th of March early next year. Okay, so for those of you who have partners, collaborators in academia, or if you are an academic and you have partnerships with industry, this would be a very interesting opportunity for you. So it's really, and I'm reading it, it's an academic industrial partnerships for translation of technologies for diagnosis and treatment. It's an RO1 clinical trial optional. In terms of the award budget, it's not capped. Once again, you really have to justify the scope of work. And also what's recommended is $500,000 per year for a maximum period of 5 years. The purpose of this opportunity is to stimulate efforts to translate scientific discoveries and engineering developments into methods or tools that address problems in basic research. So we're talking about understanding a specific disease, applied research to assess risk, detection, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and or the management of disease. The participating institutes for this opportunity are the NCI, NIDCR, NIBIB, so National Cancer Institute, the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research, and the NIBIB. Upcoming deadlines are October 5th of this year and February 5th of early next year. So now that we have covered, provided some example opportunities from the NIH, moving on to other agencies, other sources of funding. So we've got the FDA here, who has a huge interest really in clinical studies of orphan products addressing unmet needs of rare diseases. It's an RO1 with clinical trials required. So it's really about more advanced projects. In terms of the funding, it's also not capped. The work has to reflect this. The budget has to reflect the scope of work. Once again, $500,000 per year for a maximum period of 4 years. That's what's recommended. In terms of the purpose of this opportunity, it's really about to fund well-controlled studies, as you can see, to support new indication or change in labeling of products to address unmet needs in rare diseases or conditions. And you can see one of the main areas of interest include medical devices. In terms of the upcoming deadlines, we have the October 6th of this year, and followed by October 5th of next year. So it's really once a year. And if you plan to submit an application for the FDA with regards to this opportunity, we highly advise that you start working on the application fairly soon. Okay, moving on to other agency, an amazing agency that funds advanced medical devices is BARDA. BARDA is the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. At this point of time, we all know that BARDA is only accepting COVID-19 related projects, including medical devices, of course. Depending on the specifics of the project. But we expect, basically the funding opportunity for COVID-related projects expire in October. And they may extend the BAA to only include COVID projects, or they may go back to normal in terms of accepting various applications from across all medical fields. But generally speaking, this is an amazing source of funding for medical devices in the advanced stage. And we're talking about really countermeasures for pandemics, infectious diseases, chemical, biological threats, radiological and nuclear threats as well. In terms of the budget cap, there's really no cap. And they have extremely high funding levels available. The deadline for the main BAA for BARDA is actually rolling. There are no specific due dates, so you can apply any time of the year. But as I mentioned, at this point of time, BARDA is only accepting COVID-19 related projects. Moving on to another agency, we have the USAMRMC BAA, which the broad agency announcement, which is from the United States Army Medical Research and Material Command. In terms of the funding landscape, there's no cap on the budget. You just have to justify the proposed work in terms of budget justification. The scope of work really, as long as you have an Army angle to your device in terms of addressing medical problems of importance to the American soldier. So any medical devices that deal with infectious diseases, combat casualty care, military operational medicine, clinical and rehabilitative medicine, biological defense, medical simulation and information sciences, and many, many more. The deadlines are also rolling deadlines and no specific due dates. They're open throughout the year. And last but not least agency that we're going to speak about that also has a huge interest to fund medical devices is DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. As you can see from the title, they have interest only in quite advanced projects. There's no budget cap in DARPA, but you must justify the requested budget, of course. The aim is really to leverage advances in engineering computer science to drive and reshape biotechnology for national security. Really, when we speak about DARPA, we're talking about almost sci-fi projects that can, in terms of emerging technical areas, including human-machine interfaces, human performance, things to do with infectious diseases at a different level, and synthetic biology. The goal is really to develop, demonstrate, and transition biologically based technologies as part of the National Security Toolkit. And the deadlines are same as the previous agencies. It's rolling throughout the year with no specific due dates. So now that we have covered pretty much most of the agencies that are interested to fund medical devices, just want to mention some few points that you really have to keep in mind when you want to pursue these funding opportunities in terms of maximizing your chances of award. So first of all, you really have to seek insight into the interests and goals of the funding agency. So when you open the solicitation or the opportunity, you can see the contact details of the program officer. So we really encourage you to contact them, email them, seek their interest, share with them what you're proposing, and really get feedback on whether this solicitation is a good fit, on whether they encourage you to apply, and just basically get feedback from them in terms of what you're proposing. However, This does not mean that you change your science based on this solicitation that you found. It's it's usually not the case. It's not, we don't encourage you to change your science based on the interest and goals of a solicitation that you have found and you liked. So really stick to your expertise, stay to the course, and ensure to correlate the granting strategy with your long-term research and development plan. Finally, you really have to know all your weaknesses and really find the right partners if necessary. So if you are missing expertise, special expertise to conduct a specific part of your research that can really help you get the project done, we highly encourage you to find the right partners who can fill all existing gaps in terms of completing the project. Okay, so this is it for now. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. Before I finish up, I'm just going to go to the Q&A section, see if I have any questions I can answer real quick. Okay, so we've got a question. So can we submit the same project to multiple agencies at the same time? Well, the answer is yes, you can. Actually, this is the very basis of our strategy at FreeMind. It's really what we call the multi-submission granting strategy, meaning that you can submit the same project to multiple agencies at the same time simultaneously. Now, keep in mind, so just to give you an example, if you have a project to deal with infectious diseases, you can apply for NIAID in the NIH, the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, in addition to BARDA, the USAMRMC, and private foundations at the same time. But within the NIH itself, you cannot apply the same exact project to more than one institute within the NIH at the same time. See if we can have some more questions. Someone's asking about matching funds. No, you don't need to match the funds. You receive 100% of the grant is non-dilutive. You don't need to match the funds. And also worth mentioning, there are no royalty payments. Okay, we'll take one last question here. Someone is asking about indirect costs and overheads. I have to divide this question in two parts. If we're talking about the NIH, so if we're talking about the NIH, if you are a non-US entity, it's about 8% maximum in terms of indirect costs. And if you are a US entity, then it's completely negotiable and can be much higher. For other agencies, not the NIH, if we're talking about BARDA, the DoD, the US Army, then regardless if you are a US entity or not, the indirect costs are completely negotiable. Also, someone's asking, well, can we get the slides? Absolutely. So I'll definitely send you the slide deck. Of course, if you have any more questions, feel free to email me at amro@freemindconsultants.com. Also, feel free to call me directly on the number you can see in front of you. Also, the recording of this webinar will be available on YouTube very, very soon. I hope you all enjoyed this webinar and wish you all have a great day. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.